me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Let's go. I'm about to go off like a weapon. Fuel to the top, gotta fill the engine. In my thoughts.
Welcome back, everybody. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you think about this video. Today we're going to be going over Vic Fangio. We haven't talked about him for a little while, and he said something that might be cause of concern or just, something that every coach thinks on his defense. Obviously going into training camp because, you want it to be the best possible defense that you can create. If you don't have the best possible side of the football, then obviously there's cause of concern. And I think also when you're a perfectionist, you need to have and make sure that you have all the things that are needed and necessary in order for you to excel at that sort of thing. So with Vic Fangio, he has recently said that he thinks he is missing a couple pieces on his defense. And I know we've gotten a lot of players coming into this season, but let's be honest, we can always do with more. There are some positions that we have, I think personally, some depth problems, and I would say it has to do with linebacker and possibly defensive tackle, just because we need depth at those positions. Even in safety, we only have a couple of players at the safety position. So what we're going to talk about, we're going to go into this article from MSN where it seems to be that the Dolphins defense is missing a few pieces. This is a story by Omar Kelly, and we're going to dive right into it. So the expectations are sky high for Vic Fangio. The Miami Dolphins won a bidding war, making the former Chicago Bears head coach and seasoned defensive coach the highest paid defense coordinator in the NFL. And the expectation is that he'll deliver immediate returns. This defense does two things. It creates turnovers and stops explosive plays, said the safety coach Joe Casper, who left the Philadelphia Eagles to join Miami staff this offseason. Now, the number one way to win games in the NFL is to create turnovers or protect the ball, stop explosive plays. That is essentially all three of those, you win the game. This scheme, similar to the one we ran in Philadelphia, gives us the best chance to do those two things. The problem is to transform the leftovers of Brian Flores' hybrid defense to a top 10, possible top 5 unit in 2023. Obviously, you need to make a transition from the style of players that you had, which is, players like Brandon Jones that are blitzing safeties, to making them more of a zone coverage safety. We have some really good talent at some places, Fangio said at the conclusion of Miami's minicamp, likely referring to the Dolphins' defensive front, linebacker unit, and cornerbacks. Probably more so the defensive front and cornerbacks and the outside linebackers. The middle linebackers might be, I think we need a little more depth there as well. Ooh, it's thundering outside. In other places, we've got to find the talent, Fangio said. I think it's a good mix right now. Our good players have got to play really good for us to be good. And we've got to find other guys to fill in that good play in spite of their lack of playing time and experience. So what we're guessing here is that he's kind of saying that the depth in some of the positions is a little bit scary just because of what happened last year and how it kind of just was really hard for any part of our defense to be good because the injuries were piling up, but we didn't have much depth behind some of the places. Now, of course, you don't expect to go into the season losing your top 4 corners. I think last year was like Bethel, Trill, Nick Needham, and who else was it? And then obviously Byron Jones was being a loser. Depth concern on the defense. Roster depth seems to be what Fangio is hinting at. He's possibly wondering how good the Dolphins defense will be if a starter or 2 players like Raekwon Davis, David Long, maybe Javon Holland are sidelined for injury in a stretch in the 2023. Agbo was done the same thing back in 2022, and we also saw strong safety Brandon Jones and cornerback Nick Needham all go down to injury. So basically what this article is talking about is he's essentially saying that I think a couple of positions you need some depth at. Now, like Christian Wilkins and the defensive tackles, you might need to get a nose tackle that would accompany what Vic Fangio wants to do with this defense. The thing is, and what we are trying to do is essentially we are also needing to find the depth pieces on this team, because what we are doing is transitioning a completely different style of defense to a new style. So the last defense we had was based upon blitz packages and man coverage, which this new defense, there is going to be man coverage and there will be some sort of blitzes, but it's going to be worlds different than what we had last year. And that's essentially what we are saying, is that if the depth players come behind them, that they are able to fill in the role just in case there are injuries. Because obviously you want to play with all your starters, but that's not reasonable when you are talking NFL football. There probably is going to be one or two guys that go down. So you want to have players that can fill the role. And the thing is there are a couple of players on this team that you are trying to transition to a completely new defense. And you're trying to see if their skill set, because again, you draft and get players to best fill the needs of the style of defense or offense that you are doing. So this defense now that's completely different, and it's even shifting from 4-3-3-4 to a zone style and even like a hybrid zone outside linebacker blitz style, and a lot more shifts and things like that, versus having heavy blitzes, heavy man coverage, heavy, hybrid style safeties that now need to play much more zone and much more disguise and I guess more intelligence based versus picking which guy you're getting and staying with him. So there's going to be some sort of rough patches going on with that, and that's what I think he's talking about. He is talking about getting players to fill the roles of essentially trying to make sure that in case any injuries happen, because he's been in the league for a long, long time, and this long time has shown him that essentially you need to have depth because people are going to go down to injury. That's just the way of football. I don't think there is, it's very rare that a team has 0 injuries on one side of the ball. Usually you have one person at least go down to injury, and you have to account for that. You have to make sure that you have the players to come in, fill the role as best as they possibly can. I think he's talking about, obviously you have a season like we had last year where we had an enormous amount of injuries, and we didn't have the players to fill in depth-wise to do the same things that we essentially needed them to do. Like, for instance, Brandon Jones goes down, and you don't have that same style of safety. Javon Holland is, but we needed him more in the backfield to make sure that the deep plays weren't going, unnoticed. And the problem is then you don't have the same blitzing safety that Brandon Jones would be to attack the quarterback and rush him to make him throw the ball badly. Well, with this, it's going to be the same thing, that if you have a person that can't play the position that is needed, whereas right now when you're running a 3-4, you need a nose tackle that takes on 2 blockers, where Christian Wilkins is not really necessarily a nose tackle. He's more of a defensive tackle, 4-3 style, taking on 1 offensive lineman, sometimes 2. A nose tackle, you need to have like a Raekwon Davis to be able to take on 2 blockers and allow the other players to get around that. And, that's obviously what a nose tackle is. You need to be much bigger. So I think what he is going to do, and what we maybe kind of consider, is that the Dalvin Cook thing is still on the table, but we might be still getting, somebody like an Akeem Hicks, an actual true nose tackle that you can put there, and then maybe have Christian Wilkins, Zach Sealer on the other side of the defensive end, or Ogba, or whatever it is. You can have a different style of defense, but maybe we get a defensive player to kind of fill these roles. And also, I'm hearing some things about Channing Tindall that he's not really picking up the playbook. Maybe you get a depth piece linebacker to kind of just fill that role just in case. David Long has been injured his whole entire career. It's one of those things that you may need to account for that yes, he's great talent, but he has been injured a lot in his career, and that's kind of an issue. That's going to be an issue that you need to rely on, because you're getting this middle linebacker that you want to be a true middle linebacker, but if he goes down, you can't really just throw Channing Tindall in there and expect him to do the same job. You need to get a depth piece that can actually fill the role. Van Ginkel's transitioning to middle linebacker. You don't know he's going to play in game. So I think what we're just doing right now, trying to get those depth pieces to allow Vic Fangio to be more calm, just in case, because his playbook is very, very complicated, and it takes a lot of learning to be able to grasp in a way that you can implement it every single game and allow yourself to be comfortable implementing these things, because there's a lot of disguises, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of call outs, there's a lot of misdirection with it, and if you don't do it right, you'll leave an opening for the defense, and that's just not good. So I think that's what he's saying here. I just want to make a quick video kind of discussing what Vic Fangio is talking about, and see if something that you would think would be necessary. Maybe you give me a free agent piece in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. But as always, hope you have a great rest of your day. Fins up. Peace.